Hi, and welcome back to another episode of Synergy of the Rose. In this week's episode, we are going to look at the very important topic of giving your energy away during intimacy, during hookups, during lovemaking. There's been a big drive over the last 30 plus years to liberate women, and that's happened in lots of respects, and I wouldn't want us going back to being virgins and getting married. But I am going to sound righteous and old-fashioned, and I'm not going to apologize for that, because actually this is a really important topic to understand, that the more partners you have, the more of your power you're giving away. And so Sylvia and I are going to discuss that today, because I know Sylvia feels just as passionately about this as I do.
Yes, absolutely. If we just even think and go back into ancient times, and they used to say, let's sacrifice a virgin for the power. Back in the days, that just goes to show you how powerful a woman is when she's pure. And so men have always known that, and there's a power into that, especially you feed off power. I think we constantly make fun of that because that's what media told us to make fun of. Like, it's this ancient natives and they don't know what they were doing, that sacrificing and this and that. I was like, they know more about energetic fields than we will ever. And one thing I brought it up as well is because, of course, I myself included, have always thought that there was some sense of losing power when you have intercourse with someone, because you're connected. So if you think about, if you plug in into something yourself, like into energy, it's gonna suck the energy out. Now, equally or both, it's always coming out. And I know that I was always told growing up that it's not because you're going to be a slut or anything, but I think they put that fear on women because there was no other way to explain that. Like, if you're just sleeping around with men, because you're going to lose your power, people are going to say this. So they put this branding of, oh, you're a slut, and therefore men are not going to want you. And the reason behind that is also like, oh, because there's nothing to drain out of that woman. Everyone's already drained everything out of her energy. So we want to make sure that we understand more about the energetic field and how that affects you when you have intercourse, and that way you can choose more wisely who you're going to give that energy to.
Yeah, and it is, and as I said, I wouldn't want us to go back to, because there were so many women that didn't enjoy intimacy because they were never taught how to enjoy it. They were never taught that they were allowed to enjoy it, and there were no boundaries. But it does appear to me that since we have leveled up with education, since we have been leveling up on being allowed a voice and a vote, since we've leveled up on emotional expression, since it's been like a drive that we've leveled up in all these areas. And so how can we keep them down? How can we stop them from reaching their full potential, their full power? Because women are powerful. As Sylvia just said, it was always a virgin woman that was sacrificed. Now, that was done because of her power. Mother Earth is feminine. And we all know the power with the elements that she invokes, the capabilities that she has to do when she's angry, or when she's happy, when she's sad. You can feel the emotions of the planet, and we actually physically see those emotions come into play with the environment that is actually created around that emotional response that the planet has. Now, it's Mother Earth, it's Gaia. And we're the same. We're exactly the same. We have massive amount of power within us. And we need to understand that. And the thing is, if you have lots and lots of partners, and if you're having hookups, who the hell are you hooking up with? Okay, they may not be a murderer or a rapist, or you may have a very lovely night and you're a liberated woman and I've enjoyed the sex, and that's absolutely fine. But how many people in that hour or 2 hours or whatever it was you enjoyed, how many people have you actually slept with? How many energies are in that mix? Because when we connect through intercourse with another being, we are merging our energies, and that happens every single time. So if you're into hookups, and for sure the person that you're hooking up with is also into hookups, how many thousands of people have you just merged your energy with? And in that, how much darkness, how much heavy energy, how many entities are within that? Because
oh my God, yes,
a spiritual war. And this is part of the tactics to keep us and our energies and our power down.
Yeah, absolutely. And not to mention that every time you don't have a partner that is equally merging their energy with yours that's pure, how many times have you felt drained and left? And you feel this hole inside you. And that's because that energy was taken away from you. Your creativity, everything that makes you as an essence of you has been withdrawn from you. Now, I always tell my daughter, is I know she's going to have sex, and I said, listen, you're a teen, I'm sure it's going to come up pretty soon, the topic, or if not, you're going to meet someone, and I just want you to be aware of what actually happens. Okay, I'm not even talking in a physical realm where, okay, you might get pregnant or you're going to catch a disease or stuff like that, which are also very important issues. But since we work with energy, I want her to see a much bigger picture of what's actually happening, the part of her missing. And we all know this, that when you take that first person, you have that connection. And if you're in love and you have that connection, it's the most wonderful thing if it's the same, if it's mutual. But if it just feels because you did it because you're forced to, we all feel completely gutted, empty, almost like something was stolen from us. It's not a beautiful experience. And we never had the opportunity to really understood why that happened. But that's because you had this massive, massive energy inside of you, beautiful, glowing, this beautiful energy of you that was just so pure. And now someone just took half of it out. And now you're like, so you are genuinely missing you, part of you. Now, I always was told something like that with growing up. And I always thought it was because, they just don't want me to be a slut or whatever. Okay, I get it.
As we all did.
As we all did. But for me, it did feel like I would be missing a huge part of me if I was to give away that power. So I was very careful about that as well. And as I grew older, let's move into artists. For instance, I can bring up Lady Gaga, who says, I will not have any relationship, sex, or intercourse with anyone when I wanted to be creative, create something, because I need all that energy inside of me. And I thought that was really interesting she would say that, because that's not something we talk about enough. And as you mentioned, football players are not allowed, or professional players that are not allowed to be with their spouses prior to a game or a match. So let's bring it all into that. So there is an energy inside of you, but then what happens once it's gone? And we feel empty. You feel like you just cannot connect to other people. You cannot. There is a way that you can bring that back. And I was telling you earlier that I actually found a healer who did this beautiful ritual, and I was trying to find her name. It was years ago, because it was something that was so new to me that I've no one ever explained, and I thought it was so beautiful, and did this beautiful ritual about claiming back that energy and there is one. And just like we do, we cutting cords with people, but this is to cut the cord with the person you had sex. So it has to be very specific, which means you have to know the names, full names of the people you've had sex with. Which, if you have multiple partners, that's going to be really hard for you. And that's why we said don't just go hooking up, because you will be left empty. You will feel like you're just a walking shell. There's nothing left inside of you energetically wise. You can claim it, but it's not going to be the same. But if that's you, that's fine. Claim what you know. Claim back, because you're still retrieving that. And from what I remember, the ritual goes like this. You sit down to meditate, and you're claiming back all the energy from the people you had sex with. So you say the person's name, and you said that when you say that person, I claim back the energy you took with me when we had, intercourse sex with. Bring back only my energy and cut and take away yours. And then you pull it until you feel like you got your energy back. And once at that, if you feel any other energy, is you cut it. So you want to cut their energy, theirs from yours, and then bring back. So first, I'm going ahead. You name it, and then you cut cords with them. I'm cutting cords with you. And then you're going to, anything left from you in me, I'm going to extract it. And then you're going to bring back what was stolen from you. So then you do that with each partner. Also, as you're doing that, you are imagining yourself almost wrapping yourself again in your own energy when you're calling it back. So you're doing turns and wrapping yourself back into your energy so it goes back in. And you do that for every single person you slept with. Then you meditate again, and you feel, and you become at peace. I felt at that moment that I need to take a bath just to cleanse myself. And then that's very natural to want to go into a water, water, river, ocean. If just a regular bath or a shower is fine. And then you just sit with it, because you're probably going to feel a little bit sick from all the energy, tired from bringing everything back, and just let it be. Don't do anything for the rest of the day, because it all has to come back, because it's trying to find its place back inside of you. And that was, I was really struggling to find the healer who did that, because she deserves the credit. But I can't remember her name. It was years ago, and I've never did it again, so I didn't.
Yeah.
But that's something that I would tell my daughter as well. Like, hey, this and this energy, when you are going to be with someone, you need to all take into account that you are giving half of yourself or part of yourself to that person.
Well, you give when you're in love, and you're in that moment, you give all of yourself.
Yes.
You're giving all
absolutely.
of yourself. You are merging all of you with another person. Now, hopefully, if you've got it right, they're merging all of them. So you both come away feeling absolutely elated. And that's why it's so important to have the discernment over who you're sleeping with. I mean, I've got to the point now that and I've always been, it's interesting, isn't it? Because I've always had long spells of celibacy throughout my life. When I say I've been married 3 times, everybody goes, "Oh!" But actually, within that, there's been long spells of celibacy. It's interesting. But I actually advocate that. I know the problem is we've got a culture now that young women think that they are being progressive and empowered by making their own choices, but really are they their own choices, or have they been programmed? Has there been a lot of sublingual messaging and programming going on within media, within movies, within culture, within society? Because as I said, as women, as the divine feminine has been getting back some equilibrium, getting some balance, getting equality in different areas, then there has been things done in other areas to continue to siphon our energy, to continue to keep us small, to continue. And you have to ask yourself, if you're a young woman, ask yourself why. Ask yourself why. This is not a bitter, twisted old woman here that's had bad relationships. I mean, I can't wait for my next relationship. This has got nothing to do with that. It's got to do with me actually learning that there has been a lot of manipulation, and it's not about blame, but it's about seeing it. It's about acknowledging it, and it's about not playing into the games anymore, and really taking back our power, and then finding a masculine or feminine, whatever your preference is, but finding a partner that matches that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
It's so important. So important, especially for where we're going in the future.
Yes, exactly. And I know people are like, oh, that's just a prude way of thinking, old-fashioned, and I like having sex and it's my choice. I'm like, yes, hon, but how do you feel afterwards? Because we're not talking about giving away your physical power and you being an activist, feminist, whatever. I'm talking about how do you feel energetically inside, and only you will know that. So you have to sit down with yourself after you just had intercourse with whoever you decide, and how do you feel afterwards? Because that's something you need to also think about.
Yeah, I want to interject there. This is where we need to be careful as we rise, as the divine feminine rises. And there's masculine and feminine with all of us. And this is what we need to remember. If when you do as Sylvia says, and you feel elated, and you feel empowered, and you feel charged, check how the person that you've just slept with feels.
Right.
Have you stepped into your divine masculine and siphoned their energy, even if you're feminine? Have you stepped into your divine masculine and siphoned that other person's energy? This is what this is a discernment that we have to take. And if we want unity, if we want equality, then we have to be willing to ask those questions. We have to be willing to take responsibility and accountability.
Absolutely. Yes.
For this. Yeah, because
we're also takers. It's not just givers. And I'm referred most of the time as givers because I still tend to think more like women have the biggest one to give in terms of that energy than men do. But you're absolutely right. There are situations where it's the other way around, and we need to take accountability for that as well.
Yeah. So I think that's a really good place to end this. That's bye-bye from me.
And me. And as always, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. Till next time.
Bye-bye.